President Trump raising new questions this evening after what he said during a photo op, summoning reporters, telling them this was the calm before the storm. ABC's Cecilia Vega asking the White House today, what did he mean?
In the White House State Dining Room, this is the image President Trump summoned reporters to see. The president smiling, surrounded by his top military leaders and their spouses. Then came the unsolicited, cryptic comment.
You guys know what this represents? Well, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's for storming?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm, Mr.
We have the
President?
world's great military people in this room. I will tell you that. And we're going to raise you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
And today in the Oval Office, we tried again.
Mr. President, what did you mean by calm before the storm yesterday? What did you mean by that?
Thank you very much.
After a wink and a pause,
You'll find out.
the comment especially ominous as the United States is engaged in a war of words with North Korea, and the president is on the verge of decertifying the nuclear deal with Iran.
Was he referring to military action when he said calm before the storm?
We're never going to say in advance what the president's going to do.
How seriously should the American public or American adversaries, for that matter, take these comments? Was it a joke? Was it serious?
I think you can take the president protecting the American people always extremely serious, and if he feels that action is necessary, he'll take it.
is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interests, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another 4-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much The whole world knows it.
The people of this nation have spoken. They've delivered us a clear victory, a convincing victory, a victory for we the people. We've won with the most votes ever cast on a presidential ticket in the history of the nation.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Over the past few weeks, officials in each state, commonwealth, and district, without regard to party or political preference, have certified the winning candidates. Today, a member of the Electoral College, representing the certified winner, cast their votes for President and Vice President of the United States in an act just as old as our nation itself. And once again, in America, the rule of law, our Constitution, and the will of the people prevailed. Our democracy pushed, tested, threatened, proved to be resilient, true, and strong. The Electoral College votes, which occurred today, reflect the fact that even in the face of a public health crisis unlike anything we've experienced in our lifetimes, the people voted. They voted in record numbers. More Americans voted this year than have ever voted in the history of the United States of America. Over 155 million Americans were determined to have their voices heard and their votes counted.
This may be the most important speech I've ever made. I want to provide an update on our ongoing efforts to expose the tremendous voter fraud and irregularities which took place during the ridiculously long November 3rd elections. We used to have what was called Election Day. Now we have election days, weeks and months, and lots of bad things happened during this ridiculous period of time, especially when you have to prove almost nothing to exercise our greatest privilege, the right to vote. As president, I have no higher duty than to defend the laws and the Constitution of the United States. That is why I am determined to protect our election system, which is now under coordinated assault and siege. Can do, and I'm not sure that's right. I think military defense, military offense, frankly, is the most important thing. But it's certainly one of the most important things you can do.
You wrote a piece for the Wall Street Journal, and you say China is targeting members of Congress with 6 times the frequency of Russia and 12 times the frequency of Iran. What is behind Beijing's aggressive approach?
So they want laws and policies out of the United States that are favorable to China. And what they're really trying to do is, through blackmail, through bribery, through overt and covert influence, trying to make sure that only laws that are favorable to China are passed.
Have you been to Capitol Hill, and have you briefed this threat information to lawmakers?
I was so troubled by what I saw from the position as the Director of National Intelligence that I went and briefed both the House and Senate Intelligence Committees on this information, which they found surprising and troubling.
Invitation to an event that promised to be, quote, an occasion for exclusive deal-making. It said, quote, the opportunities for mutually beneficial economic development between China and our individual states are tremendous, end of quote. Deal-making sounds like it might have come from President Trump, but the invitation was actually from a former governor. I was being invited to the U.S.-China Governors Collaboration Summit. It was an event co-hosted by the National Governors Association and something called the Chinese People's Association for Friendship and Foreign Countries. Sounds pretty harmless. What the invitation did not say is that the group I just mentioned, is the public face of the Chinese Communist Party's official foreign influence agency, the United Front Work Department. Now, I was lucky. I was familiar with that organization from my time as the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, but it got me thinking, how many of you made the link between that group and Chinese Communist Party officials? What if you made a new friend while you were at that event? What if your new friend asked you for introductions to other politically connected and powerful people? What if your new friend offered to invest big money in your state, perhaps in your pension, in industries sensitive to our national security? These aren't hypotheticals. These scenarios are all too true, and they impact American foreign policy significantly. Indeed, last year, a Chinese government-backed think tank in Beijing produced a report that assessed all 50 of America's governors on their attitudes towards China. They labeled each of you friendly, hardline, or ambiguous. I'll let you decide where you think you belong. Someone in China already has. Many of you, indeed, in that report are referenced by name. So here's the lesson. The lesson is that competition with China is not just a federal issue. It's why I wanted to be here today, Governor Hogan. It's happening in your states with consequences for our foreign policy, for the citizens that reside in your states, and indeed for each of you. And in fact, whether you're viewed by the CCP as friendly or hardline, know that it's working you. Know that it's working the team around you. Competition with China is happening inside of your state, and it affects our capacity to perform America's vital national security functions.
News that will be front page of The Australian tomorrow, and big news in the UK as well. Amid rising tensions in the Australia-China relationship, there has now been a major leak of official records from the Chinese Communist Party. It is believed to be the first leak of its kind in the world. A register with the details of nearly 2 million Communist Party members. It includes their name, party position, birth date, national ID number, ethnicity, and in some cases, even their phone number. What's amazing about this database is not just that it exposes people who are members of the Communist Party and who are now living and working all over the world, from Australia to the US to the UK, but it's amazing because it lifts the lid on how the party operates under President and Chairman Xi Jinping. But this leak shows that party branches are embedded in some of the world's biggest companies and even inside government agencies. That's right, Communist Party branches have been set up inside Western companies, allowing the infiltration of those companies by CCP members who, if called on, are answerable directly to the Communist Party, to the chairman, the president himself. Along with the personal identifying details of 1.95 million Communist Party members, mostly from Shanghai, there are also the details of 79,000 Communist Party branches, many of them inside companies. This leak, and it's going to be front page of The Australian tomorrow and a big story in the UK as well, is a significant security breach that is likely to embarrass the Chinese president. But it's also going to embarrass some global companies who appear to have no plan in place to protect their intellectual property from theft, from economic espionage.
Given the evidence that you have personally reviewed, is Joe Biden and his family been compromised by the Chinese Communist Party?
1,000%. 1,000%. He cannot be the president of the United States.
Bernie Carrick, how do people get to you?
This is my point, Alex. This is a national security problem. This is just not about graft and corruption. That's what Burisma was. This is a national security problem. And one of the keys is the FBI has had this hard drive since the fall of 2019. They protected Biden against Bernie Sanders and all the other components. Remember, this should have been released immediately in the Democratic primary and let the Democratic voters take care of it. Also, President Trump would have never been impeached. If all this came out in November, December of 2019, we would have gotten rid of the whole hoax and fiasco of the impeachment process, and we could have focused on, guess what? The pandemic, the Chinese Communist Party virus that then hit us in January. This is explosive, and that's why. Why do you think Twitter and Facebook are trying to cover up for the guy? They understand this disqualifies him from being president of the United States.
And I'm not sure that's right. I think military defense, military offense, frankly, is the most important thing. But it's certainly one of the most important things you can do.
The president smiling, surrounded by his top military leaders and their spouses. Then came the unsolicited, cryptic comment.
What this represents? What you're talking
had a very nice meeting with Attorney General Bill Barr at the White House. Our relationship has been a very good one. He's done an outstanding job as per letter. Bill will be leaving just before Christmas to spend the holidays with his family. Deputy Attorney General Jeff Rosen, an outstanding person, will become acting Attorney General, highly respected. Richard Donahue will be taking over the duties of Deputy Attorney General. Thank you to all. Well, now, Special Counsel John Durham is expanding his team. He's making, quote, excellent progress in his Obamagate investigation, we're told. Durham adding prosecutors to the team. He remains full steam ahead. Then, according to a Fox News source, this has been full steam ahead. It hardly seems so. Joining us now, Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch. Tom, we've got a lot to go over here. I'm going to just begin with the Attorney General resigning and taking off in just a little more than a week. Your thoughts?
Well, obviously there was a big gap in what President Trump wanted in terms of the DOJ approach on the corruption crisis that our nation faces versus Barr's, in my view, lackadaisical approach to it. We have information this week being reported that he specifically intervened to stop investigative steps from taking place against the Hunter crime family, the Biden crime family. And, that's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable. He protected McCabe, protected Comey. The Durham investigation is a big fail, as best I can tell. Hillary Clinton got a pass from Barr as well. Barr did some good things. He was an effective spokesman. But where the rubber meet, where
what
the
does
rubber
that
met
mean?
the road,
he was
Tom, lacking.
Wait a minute. He wasn't running the communications department, Tom.
Well,
he was the Attorney General, and now he's getting credit for communications? That's the nicest thing you can say about him? It's nicer than what I would say about him. Let's go to John Durham. It's full steam ahead for him. It's been 581 days since Durham launched the investigation of Obamagate. 581. Now, after the election, he's adding prosecutors to the team. What are we dealing with in that swamp?
You're right, Lou. He was appointed in April of 2019. There's been one prosecution/non-prosecution. It was handed to him on a silver platter by the IG last year. It took him a year to do something. And I think we're going to get
By the way, they found out that they found out that Kleinsmith lied to them about his lies. I mean, that's kind of rich, isn't it? They do a plea deal, and then they decide they're going to get tough, and they take the lower crime of which he pleaded. It's just dumb. I mean, this is just dumb what we're watching over at the Justice Department. And these smart little guys are walking around. You can just see them thinking, oh, aren't we clever? We're just so cute and clever. And they do nothing. They help no one except their friends. And it is their swamp friends. It's disgusting what we're watching. It's not funny in any way. It is sickening to watch.